Every tale begins with once upon a time, but tonight we are traveling back to the year 1812, to a flickering hearth in the heart of the German woods. The modern world is fading now, replaced by the heavy, silent weight of history. The relentless ticking of the digital clock, the distant hum of the highway, and the persistent weight of the day's demands are all beginning to dissolve into a soft, grey mist. You are safe, you are tucked away, and the ancient stories of the Brothers Grimm are waiting to carry you into the deep, dark green of the past. Here, in this space we have created together, time does not move in straight lines. It curls like the smoke from a dying candle, drifting backward, pulling us away from the bright glare of the present, and into the long amber shadows of the 19th century. Imagine, if you will, a room where time has stood still for 200 years. A library of shadows, where the air smells of old parchment, beeswax, and the cold, clean mist of a Hessian night. It is a library, ancient and vast, where the walls are lined with shelves of dark, polished oak. There is no harsh light here, only the flickering glow of a single hearth, casting dancing shadows across the spines of thousands of volumes bound in vellum and calfskin. These are not ordinary books. They are vessels of memory, their pages softened by the touch of centuries, holding the whispers of peasants, grandmothers, and charcoal burners who told these tales to keep the darkness at bay. On the heavy wooden table before you lies a volume larger and older than the rest. This is the collective soul of Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. As you run your fingers over the embossed letters of the title, you can almost feel the pulse of the ancient forests from which these stories grew. These tales were forged in the hearthlight of mountain cabins and whispered in the deep, silent valleys of the Black Forest. They are the echoes of a history that lived before the world became so loud, and tonight they are here to serve only one purpose: to guide you into a rest that is as deep as the roots of an ancient oak. We are opening a portal to the in-between, that sacred space where historical memory meets the soft edge of your dreams. In this space, the boundary between what was and what could be becomes beautifully blurred. The gravity of your worries has no hold here. You are a traveler, unburdened and invisible, drifting through the landscapes of the human subconscious. The air in this library is perfectly still. The silence is not empty. It is a full, velvety presence that cushions your thoughts like the heavy drapes of a royal bedchamber. Your room, wherever you are resting right now, has become a sanctuary, a quiet outpost of this peaceful hall of history. No one expects anything from you now. There are no messages to answer, no problems to solve, and no future to plan. Your only task is to exist in the breath you are taking right now. You are allowed to let go. You are allowed to be still. The history of the world is long, but tonight your story is simply one of peace. As you settle deeper into this stillness, feel the fabric of your surroundings. Adjust your blankets, pulling them up until you feel completely cradled and secure, much like the travelers of old wrapped in their heavy wool cloaks against the night. Feel the slight refreshing touch of the cool air against your cheek, a gentle contrast to the warmth wrapped around your body. The hearth fire in our library crackles once, a soft rhythmic pop that signals the beginning of our descent into the folklore of the past. The heavy leather cover of the book groans ever so slightly as it opens, revealing pages the color of cream and wild honey. The ink is dark and steady, waiting to tell you secrets that have been kept for generations. The first page turns with a sound like a collective sigh, inviting you to leave the shore of the conscious mind. We are moving now, gliding away from the now and into the then. The forest is waiting, the stars are aligning over kingdoms made of mist, and the path is rising to meet us. Let the words become the gentle wind that carries you. Close your eyes. Let the first image form in the darkness behind your lids. A small path, a flicker of scarlet velvet, and the deep green silence of the woods. Our journey into the heart of the Brothers Grimm begins now. Imagine your thoughts are like dry leaves falling onto a still, dark pond. In the quiet of this 19th century library, the world outside has ceased to exist, and all that remains is the gentle, rhythmic descent of these leaves. One by one, they touch the surface of the water, creating tiny silver ripples that expand and then vanish into the deep, cool silence. There is no wind here to catch them, no current to pull them away. They simply settle, sinking slowly through the dark water until they rest on the soft silt of the bottom, where the weight of the day is finally traded for the stillness of the earth. Let us begin to bring that same stillness into the vessel of your body. Start by noticing the space between your eyebrows. Often, we carry the tension of 1,000 decisions there, a tightness that we don't even realize we are holding. Imagine a soft, warm light, the color of a fading hearth brushing over your forehead, smoothing away the lines of concentration and care. Let that warmth drift down to your eyelids. Feel how heavy they have become, like the velvet curtains of a grand theater closing after the final act. They are so heavy now, so perfectly sealed, that the light of the library becomes nothing more than a faint golden haze. Allow your jaw to unclench. Let your tongue rest away from the roof of your mouth. Feel the muscles in your face soften and widen, as if you are finally removing a mask you have worn since sunrise. This relaxation flows like honey down your neck into your shoulders. Your shoulders, which have carried the invisible weight of time and responsibility, now drop away from your ears. They sink deep into the mattress, finding a support that is unwavering and kind. You are not holding yourself up anymore. The earth is holding you. Focus now on the rhythm of your chest. Do not try to change it. Simply observe it, as if you were watching the tide come in against a distant, forgotten shore. With every rise, you are drawing in the cool, filtered air of the ancient woods air that is rich with the scent of damp earth and silver pine. With every fall, you are releasing a little more of the world. Your breath is a slow, steady pulse, a bridge between the physical world and the world of stories we are about to enter. As you breathe, you realize a profound truth of this place. Your breath is the only clock that matters in this enchanted wood. The hours, the minutes, and the frantic seconds of the modern world have no currency here. In the year 1812, time was measured by the movement of the sun across the canopy and the lengthening of shadows on the moss. Here, in the in-between, time is measured only by the expansion and contraction of your lungs. There is no rush. There is no next. There is only this cycle, this life, this moment of absolute presence. You are perfectly in sync with the slow, ancient heartbeat of the history that surrounds you. Inhale the stillness of the forest. Exhale the noise of the day. Inhale the deep, blue quiet of the Hessian night. Exhale the flickering shadows of your worries. With every breath, the library walls seem to grow softer, more porous, as the boundary between your room and the German wilderness begins to dissolve. You are becoming part of the atmosphere, as light as the mist rising from the forest floor, as steady as the roots of the trees that have stood for centuries. The tension in your hands and feet has vanished, replaced by a pleasant numbness, a sense of being cradled by the very fabric of time. Your mind is now as clear and still as the pond we imagined. The leaves have all settled. The ripples have faded. You are ready to walk. You are no longer a person with a name and a list of chores. You are a soul prepared to listen. The heavy oak door of the library remains open behind you, but your focus is shifting forward, toward the window where the moonlight spills across the floor like a path of liquid silver. As your body settles into this profound state of grace, the path through the ancient oaks becomes clear. You can see it now, a narrow trail of silver-gray earth, winding its way between the gnarled trunks of trees that were old when the Grimm brothers were young. The air is slightly cooler here, smelling of wild mint and morning dew. Your journey into the folklore is no longer a concept, it is a destination. Take one more deep, effortless breath, and as you release it, feel yourself stepping across the threshold, leaving the library behind and entering the living, breathing map of the old world. In this forest, the shadows are made of moonlight and soft ink. They do not hold the sharp edges of the waking world, nor do they carry the weight of tomorrow's uncertainties. As we step deeper into the year 1812, through the atmospheric mists of the German wilderness, you may remember these stories differently from your childhood. You may recall moments of peril or the chilling breath of a predator in the dark. But tonight, the history we inhabit has been gently reshaped. The ink has been thinned with the warmth of 1,000 hearths, and the sharp corners of folklore have been rounded by the passage of time. Here, in our shared sanctuary, The wolf is not a creature of malice, but a quiet spirit of the deep woods, a grey shadow that moves in harmony with the wind. He is a guardian of the ancient paths, a silent observer of the moonlight. The deep velvet dark that stretches between the towering oaks is not a void to be feared. It is a heavy, star-flecked blanket designed to shield you from the glare of the busy world. The rustle of the leaves is not a warning, but a lullaby whispered by trees that have seen centuries of travelers find their rest. Every element of this landscape has been curated for your tranquility, stripping away the harshness of the original tales to leave only the soft, glowing core of wonder. As you drift further into this historical dreamscape, you begin to perceive an invisible boundary surrounding you. It is a circle of ancient folklore, a barrier woven from the most peaceful intentions of every storyteller who ever lived. This is the reveal. You are protected by a sacred geometry of words that only allows peace to enter. Like a castle wall built of soft light, this shield filters out the noise, the stress, and the static of the modern era. Inside this circle, the laws of the forest are rewritten. The wild becomes a garden, the night becomes a cradle, and the unknown becomes a familiar friend. You are not just a listener, you are a guest of honor in a realm where safety is the only absolute. No thorns can prick, no cold can reach. You are wrapped in a cocoon of safety that is as old as the mountains themselves. Feel the immense security of this moment, as if you were resting inside a tower of ivory, looking out at a world that is perfectly at peace. The air remains still and fragrant, carrying the scent of wild thyme and damp moss. Your heartbeat has found its natural slow cadence, syncing with the quiet thrum of the earth beneath you. There is a profound sense of enough here. You have enough, you are enough, and you are exactly where you need to be. The world of the Brothers Grimm is now a place of soft landings and gentle endings. Every path we take is illuminated by a silver glow that ensures your footing is always sure. Your mind is free to wander without concern, drifting like a feather on a calm evening breeze. The heavy leather-bound book in our library continues to turn its pages, guided by a hand that cares only for your rest. We have moved past the threshold of the ordinary, and the true immersion is about to begin. Now let us walk where the moss is softest, letting each step feel lighter than the last. The ground beneath you is a cushion of emerald velvet, yielding easily to your presence. In the distance, through the intricate lace of the silver-gray branches, there is a subtle movement. A flash of red among the deep green leaves catches the eye, not as a signal of alarm, but as a bright, comforting beacon in the twilight. We are approaching the first of our timeless encounters, where a small path leads to a story that has waited 200 years to soothe your soul. Let us follow the color deeper into the peace of the woods. Once, there was a velvet cap so red it looked like a petal fallen from a summer rose. It was a gift from a grandmother who lived beyond the trees, stitched with threads of devotion, and dyed in the deep, rich hues of a sunset sinking behind the Hessian hills. The little girl wore it so often, through the changing seasons and the shifting light, that she became known to the world simply as Little Red Cap. Tonight she steps onto the path we have cleared for her, moving with a grace that is as old as the mountains. The year is 1812, and the morning air in the woods is crisp, tasting of fresh pine needles and the faint, lingering scent of wood smoke from a distant hearth. In her hand, she carries a wicker basket. Feel the texture of that basket, the dry, sturdy weave of willow branches, slightly rough against the palm, smelling of sun-warmed wood and damp earth. Inside, wrapped in a linen cloth as white as a mountain cloud, is a cake baked that very morning. The scent of it drifts up toward you now, the sweetness of wild honey, the richness of farm butter, and the earthy warmth of ground grain. Beside it rests a bottle of wine, the glass cool and smooth to the touch, promising strength and restoration to those who rest. As she walks, the forest begins to speak in a language of whispers. Listen to the sound of the wind in the pines, a low rhythmic hushing that sounds like the breath of the earth itself. It is not a cold wind, but a gentle movement of air that carries the secrets of the high branches down to the mossy floor. The trees here are ancient guardians, their bark gnarled and silvered by time, standing in silent witness to her journey. There is no rush in her step. Every movement is a meditation. She pauses by a cluster of wildflowers, their petals trembling slightly in the morning breeze, and she decides to gather a bouquet for her grandmother. She stoops to gather them, and as she does, we gather them with her. First, the bluebells, their heads nodding like tiny porcelain bells in the shadows. Then the wood anemones, white as fallen stars, and the wild violets that hide beneath the roots of the oaks. Notice the way the damp earth feels beneath her feet, soft, yielding and cool. Every movement is deliberate, every breath is deep. She is not a traveler hurrying toward a destination. She is a part of the landscape, moving in harmony with the slow, deliberate pulse of the wilderness. She notices the way the dew clings to the spiderwebs, turning them into necklaces of diamonds draped between the ferns. She watches a squirrel freeze upon a branch, its dark eyes bright with curiosity, before it vanishes into the canopy with a sound like rustling silk. As the path winds deeper into the emerald shadows, a profound realization settles over the woods. This is the reveal. The forest isn't a place of danger, but a place of quiet observation. The eyes that watch from the thicket are not eyes of malice, but eyes of wonder. The ancient oaks do not loom. They lean in to listen to the soft hum of her song. The deep green silence is a library of living history, where every leaf is a page, and every shadow is a memory stored in the amber of time. Here in the heart of the woods, the world isn't closing in, it is opening up, inviting you to witness the peaceful coexistence of all things. The wild is merely another word for home. Little Red Cap moves through a clearing where the light is different. The sunbeams dance on the path, filtering through the high canopy like liquid gold poured through lace. These beams are not just light, they are guides. They illuminate the softest patches of moss and the clearest springs of water. They dance on the scarlet velvet of her cap, turning her into a wandering flame that warms the cool shadows of the undergrowth. They are guiding her, and in their gentle, unwavering glow, they are guiding you home. They lead toward the small cottage by the 3 oak trees, but more importantly, they lead you toward the center of your own tranquility. She sits for a moment on a fallen log, overgrown with velvet moss that feels like a cushion of air. She breathes in the scent of the damp earth, the crushed mint beneath her boots, and the distant fragrance of blooming linden trees. The world is a symphony of soft textures. The rough bark of the trees, the silkiness of the flower petals, the softness of the air against the skin, all of it serves to anchor you in this moment of historical wonder. The grandmother's house is near, a place of feather beds and warm tea, where the windows are always open to the scent of the forest, but the hearth is always lit. You can almost hear the soft click of the gate and the rustle of her skirts against the tall grass. The forest seems to hold its breath in a gesture of respect as she reaches the small clearing where the cottage stands. The thatched roof is silvered by the sun, and the smoke from the chimney rises in a straight, lazy line toward the blue vault of the sky. Inside, there is only peace. There is only the sound of a clock ticking softly, and the warmth of a grandmother's welcome. The stories of old told us of wolves and tricks, but tonight we see only the truth of the journey, that even in the heart of the great woods, there is a path that leads to safety. But for now, we remain in the transition. The afternoon is waning, and the golden light is beginning to stretch and lean, casting long, elegant fingers across the forest floor. The shadows are no longer grey, but are taking on the hues of the coming night. The birds are settling into their nests, their evening songs fading into a soft melodic murmur. As the sun dips lower, touching the horizon of the distant hills, the forest colors merge into a deep, misty purple. The vibrant greens and the scarlet reds are softening, bleeding into the calm, bruised silk of the twilight. The world is preparing for a deeper level of rest, and we are moving with it, drifting from the sunlit path into the quiet, starlit mystery of what lies ahead. The trees grow taller in the dimming light, their silhouettes becoming one with the darkening sky. You are no longer walking, you are drifting on a sea of violet air. Everything is slowing, everything is softening. The journey of the day is complete, and the journey of the dream is about to begin. The echoes of the forest fade into the rustle of evening mist. Behind you, the vibrant greens of the afternoon have surrendered to a world of monochromatic peace, where the only colors left are the shades of pearl, slate, and charcoal. The path of Little Red Cap is being gently tucked away, as if the forest itself is closing a heavy velvet-lined drawer. The tall pines and gnarled oaks begin to lose their sharp definitions, melting into the soft, indistinct shapes of the gloaming. You are no longer navigating by the sight of your eyes, but by the calm, steady pull of your heart. Before you, a bridge of silver moonlight begins to form, stretching across the clearing like a ribbon of liquid mercury. It connects the deep, ancient wild of the woods to a small, warm cottage nestled in the valley below. This is not a bridge of stone or wood, but a path made of pure distilled stillness. As you step onto it, feel the profound transition from walking to floating. The sensation of the ground against your feet dissolves, replaced by a weightlessness that defies the laws of the waking world. You are suspended in the cool night air, moving without effort, drifting like a cloud over a sleeping landscape. The gravity of the day, the weight of your limbs, and the pressure of your thoughts have finally lost their grip on you. You are buoyant, carried by the luminescence of the moon. As you glide across this silver bridge, a quiet realization settles into your spirit. Time is slowing down even further now. The frantic pace of the hours you left behind has decelerated into a majestic, sweeping crawl. Each second stretches out, becoming a vast, comfortable space where you can finally rest. The air around you is getting heavier, but it is not a weight that burdens. It is a weight that comforts. It feels like the air inside greenhouse at dusk, thick with the scent of damp earth, rich with oxygen, and warm with the lingering memory of the sun. It is a breathable blanket, pressing gently against your skin, reminding you that you are held, you are contained, and you are deeply cared for. The world is receding into a soft blur, and your focus is narrowing to the gentle rhythm of this transit. You are moving through a liminal space, the quiet corridor between the stories of the day and the dreams of the night. Each word I speak is a stepping stone across a quiet, slow-moving stream that flows beneath the silver bridge. The water below is dark and glassy, carrying the reflection of 1,000 distant stars. As you listen, feel yourself stepping from one word to the next, each one firm and reliable, guiding you safely away from the shores of thought and deeper into the ocean of sleep. There is no need to look back at the trees you have passed. There is no need to wonder what lies in the shadows ahead. There is only the rhythmic, soothing motion of the drift. You are safe in the in-between, where the history of the world is just a whisper in the wind. The world is becoming a symphony of soft edges and hushed tones. The library, the forest, and the path have all merged into this single, shimmering moment of transition. Your mind is a vessel of quietude, as calm as the surface of the stream below. The atmosphere is so thick with peace that it feels as though you could lean back against the air itself and be perfectly supported. You are drifting closer to the glow of a small window in the distance, where a candle flickers with a steady amber light. This light does not pierce the darkness, it invites it in, welcoming the night like an old friend. And across that stream, through the silver mist and the heavy, comfortable air, 7 tiny heartbeats wait in the silence. They are tucked away in a cottage of thatch and stone, breathing in unison with the night. We are leaving the solitude of the woods and moving toward the warmth of a family, where the next layer of our history is waiting to unfold in the hush of the meadow. You can feel their presence, a soft, collective warmth that pulls you toward the hearth. Everything is ready. Everything is still. The bridge has brought you to the door of a deeper rest. Sleep is no longer a destination. It is the very air you breathe, the very light you see, and the very silence that now surrounds you. A mother's voice is the first lullaby the world ever knew. Long before books were bound in leather or ink was pressed to parchment, stories lived in the gentle rise and fall of a parent's breath by the fireside. In the year 1812, in a small stone cottage nestled in a Hessian meadow, that voice is a tether to the earth. The hearth fire is a low, pulsing amber, casting long, soft shadows that dance across the wooden beams of the ceiling. Here, the air is thick with the scent of dried herbs and the comforting warmth of baking bread. We are stepping into a sanctuary of repetition, where the world is small, contained, and perfectly predictable. Inside this cottage, 7 tiny heartbeats move in a synchronized rhythm. They are the 7 little kids, soft and white as the morning mist, waiting for their mother to return from the woods. But tonight, the tension of the chase has been replaced by a hypnotic cadence. Listen to the first sound of the world outside, a knock at the door. Knock, .e. Knock, knock, knock. It is a deliberate sound, steady and rhythmic, echoing through the quiet house like a heartbeat. The wolf stands outside, but he is not a figure of terror. He is a participant in a ritual. He knocks once, twice, 3 times. Each time, the sound is muffled by the thick oak of the door, becoming a dull, soothing thud that vibrates in the floorboards. The children listen, their ears twitching in the silence, but they do not move. They wait for the repetition. They wait for the voice that has been softened by honey and white meal, a voice that has become as smooth as the silk lining of a jewelry box. When the wolf speaks, his words are a low, melodic drone, stripped of all urgency. He repeats his plea over and over until the words themselves lose their meaning and become nothing more than a chant. The kids answer in kind, a collective murmur that rises and falls like the tide. The dialogue is a loop, a gentle back and forth that anchors the mind in the present moment. There is no surprise here. There is only the comfort of knowing exactly what comes next. As the scene in the cottage settles into a deep domestic hush, we find ourselves drifting toward another rhythmic occurrence. In the palace gardens nearby, a young princess sits by the edge of a cool, dark well. In her hands, she holds a ball made of solid gold. Feel the weight of that gold. It is heavy, smooth, and holds the warmth of the afternoon sun. She tosses it into the air, and we watch its trajectory in slow motion. It rises, and it falls. Two, dot, thud, do, thud, dud. The sound of the ball hitting her palm is a perfect counterpoint to the knocking at the cottage door. Up and down, up and down. The movement is a pendulum, swinging through the still air of the garden. The princess isn't thinking of her kingdom or her future. She is mesmerized by the golden arc of the ball. But then, the rhythm breaks. The ball misses her hand and strikes the stone rim of the well with a resonant ding before plunging into the depth. Plash! The water swallows the gold, and for a moment the world is silent. But the silence is not empty. It is waiting for the next rhythm to begin. From the dark, cool water of the well, a new sound emerges. It is a soft, wet movement, a sliding, rhythmic sound of something emerging from the deep. The frog appears on the ledge, his breath a slow, visible pulse in his throat. He speaks in a voice that is thick and slow, like water moving through moss. He makes a bargain, not for power, but for companionship, for a place at the table, a sip from the cup, and a spot on the silken pillow. The princess agrees, her voice a distant whisper, and the cycle begins anew. The frog follows her back to the palace, his movements creating a steady, wet rhythm on the marble floors. Plash. Step. But when. Lash. Step. But well. As he climbs the great stone stairs, each hop is a deliberate act of persistence. 1 step. 2 steps. 3 steps. The sound is distant, rhythmic, and safe. It echoes through the vast empty halls of the castle, a small wet thud followed by a moment of silence. It is a countdown to rest, a ladder of sound that leads away from the worries of the day and toward the sanctuary of the bedchamber. This is the reveal. The repetition is a key, a secret rhythm that unlocks the door to deep sleep. The brain, weary from the jagged, unpredictable noises of the modern world, finds solace in these ancient loops. The knocking, the tossing of the ball, the hopping on the stairs, these are not just parts of a story. They are a sonic massage for the nervous system. The mind stops searching for meaning and begins to follow the pattern. It surrenders to the loop, knowing that the circle will always close, and the ending will always be the same. Knock. 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 The wolf is still there, but he is merely a shadow in the mist. 2 dud. 2. Thud. Dud. Thud. Dud. The ball is back in the hand. Plash. Not. Step dot e. Plash. Step dot I. The frog is at the door. The sounds overlap, merging into a single droning lullaby that fills the library of our minds. The air in the cottage is still. The palace is quiet. The gold is returned to the light, and the 7 heartbeats have slowed to a near stop. The cottage is quiet now. The gold is returned, resting safely on the velvet cushion of the princess's room. The frog is tucked into a corner, his pulse steady and calm. The mother goat has returned, her milk warm, her presence a shield against the world. Everything is in its place. The loops have been completed. But as the inland world settles into its final rest, a new sound begins to pull at the edges of our consciousness. A low rhythmic roar that is older than the woods and deeper than the well. The sea is calling from afar, its waves reaching out to pull us toward a different kind of horizon. Inside the quiet of the cottage, the air seems to hold its breath. The wolf's voice, now softened by the white meal and the golden honey he has swallowed, rises again in a low, vibrating hum that vibrates through the very floorboards beneath your feet. "Open the door, dear children," he says. The words are no longer a request. They have become a part of the wind, a repetitive melody that weaves through the cracks in the ancient wooden walls. The children respond with the same cautious rhythmic refrain, a chorus of soft whispers. "Show us your paws. Show us the white of the snow. Show us the color of the clouds that drift above the pines. Listen to the sound of the wolf's feet as he moves on the porch. Scuff. Slide. Scuff." It is a predictable, heavy rhythm, like a slow drum beating in the distance. He shows his paws, whitened with flour, and the children look through the gap. White. White. Everything is white. The color of cream, the color of milk, the color of the thick mist that blankets the Hessian meadow outside. The visual repetition of the color white begins to fill your mind soft, pale, and vast. The door creaks, open a long, slow, musical sound of ancient oak moving against iron. But there is no rush. There is no sudden movement. The wolf enters not as a hunter, but as a slow-moving shadow, a guest of the night, drifting into the amber warmth of the room. The children hide, and the act of hiding becomes a slow-motion dance. One slips behind the heavy oak table, feeling the cool grain of the wood against their back. One tucks themselves beneath the downy feathers of the bed, disappearing into a cloud of warmth. One crawls into the cold, stone hearth where the ashes are soft and grey, smelling of a fire that has long since gone to sleep. One finds the kitchen cupboard, smelling of dried flour, rosemary, and lavender. One hides behind the washtub, and the last, the smallest, slips into the tall wooden case of the grandfather clock. Tick, nick, tock, tock, tick, and tock, tock. The rhythm of the clock fills the house. It is the heartbeat of the home, steady and unwavering. The wolf moves from one hiding place to the next, his pace as measured as the heavy brass pendulum. He finds them, one by one, but in this version of our history, they are not caught in fear. They are gathered into the dream. The movement of the wolf is like a gardener, gathering fallen fruit slow, deliberate, and quiet. Only the youngest remains, safe within the rhythmic pulse of the clock, counting the seconds of the night. Tick, wash, tocked, dock, tick, tock, but you are that smallest child, tucked into a space that smells of old cedar and oil, protected by the very sound of time itself. Meanwhile, back in the high vaulted halls of the palace, the frog has arrived at the princess's door. Splash, thud, dud, splash, thud, doo. He is patient. He knows that the promise made by the well is a binding thread, a silver cord that cannot be broken. He waits outside the heavy mahogany door, his small damp weight pressing against the threshold. Knock, zell, knock, 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 aish. Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me, he calls. His voice is a deep, resonant croak that echoes through the marble corridors, sounding like a cello played in a vast empty cathedral. The princess opens the door, and the frog hops in. Hop, bop, slide, upset, Bernet's from Silty work. Slide. The sound of his wet skin against the cold polished stone is a rhythmic counterpoint to the ticking clock in the cottage. He sits at the table, his gold-rimmed eyes reflecting the steady light of the candles. "Lift me up," he says. "Let me sit beside you. Let me share the silence of the night." The princess lifts him, her movements slow and resigned, her fingers feeling the cool texture of his skin. The repetition of his requests to eat from her plate, to drink from her cup, becomes a litany of companionship. A sip from the cup, a crumb from the cake, a sip from the cup, a crumb from the cake, a sip from the cup, a crumb from the cake. The cycle repeats until the candles have burned low, their wax dripping in long frozen stalactites of pale amber. The dining hall is a forest of shadows. The servants have all fallen asleep at their posts, their heads resting on their chests, their breath a soft collective sigh that moves the tapestries on the walls. The frog and the princess are the only ones left awake in a world that is rapidly turning toward the dark. The shadows lengthen across the marble floor, stretching out like long, thin fingers reaching for the dawn. "I am tired," the frog whispers, his voice barely louder than the flicker of the flame. "Carry me to your silken bed. Let the world vanish." The walk to the bedchamber is a journey through a labyrinth of silence. Each footstep the princess takes is muffled by heavy Persian rugs, deep and soft like forest moss. The frog sits in her hand, a small rhythmic weight. The air here smells of rosewater and expensive oils, a heavy fragrant atmosphere that makes every breath feel like a luxury. She reaches her room, the walls hung with tapestries that tell silent stories of ancient kings and forgotten forests. She places the frog on a corner of the silken pillow, white silk, as smooth as the wolf's paws, as cool as the water in the well. White silk, silver moonlight, golden ball. White silk, silver moonlight, golden ball. White silk, a winding story you wore, I lay their lies. Silver moonlight, I, golden ball. The images circle back on themselves, looping through your mind like a spinning wheel. The ball is in the hand is on the silk is under the moon. We are caught in a web of silver threads, where the cottage and the palace have become one single, peaceful space. The knocking at the door has become the ticking of the clock. The ticking of the clock has become the hopping on the stairs. The hopping on the stairs has become the rising and falling of your own chest. The boundaries of the stories are dissolving, bleeding into one another like ink on wet parchment. Everything is returning to its origin. The wolf has found his rest, curled in the shadows of the hearth. The frog has found his pillow, dreaming of the deep, cool well. The youngest child is safe within the clock, swaying with the pendulum. The gold is resting in the dark, its surface reflecting only the silence. The repetition has smoothed away all the sharp edges of the day, leaving only a world that is round, soft, and endless. The palace is a tomb of silence, the cottage is a nest of warmth. In both places, the history of the world is being written in the language of the quiet. You are drifting now, no longer following the story, but becoming a part of the rhythm itself. The words are losing their shape, turning into the sound of the wind in the chimney, the sound of the wax dripping onto the floor, the sound of a heart beating in the dark. Knock, new thrill. Knock, new. Knock, new. Tick, up, talked, but. Tick, all. Talk, all. Breath. In. Breath. Out. Breath. Me. In. Chol. Breath. Out. Breath. Me. In. Breath. Out. Me. The loop is closing. The circle is complete. The golden ball is at the bottom of the well, and the well is as deep as your sleep. The white paws are tucked away, and the snow is falling softly over the entire kingdom, muffling the world in a blanket of absolute peace. You are the smallest child. You are the princess. You are the forest, and you are the dream. Everything is still. Everything is quiet. The rhythm is the only thing that remains, a soft, steady pulse that carries you deeper and deeper into the velvet dark. The rhythm of the house and the rhythm of the palace have now become a single pulsing heartbeat, that resonates through the very foundation of the earth. The youngest child in the clock, the frog on the silken pillow, and the 7 white kids in the warmth of the hearth are no longer separate beings moving through separate stories. They are threads in a vast ancient tapestry that is being slowly and deliberately unspun, returning to the soft, raw wool of the dream world. The tick-tock of the grandfather clock is stretching, the space between each beat becoming wider, more spacious, and more profound, until it feels as though a whole lifetime of peace could fit between 1 second and the next. The wolf's breathing in the shadows is as steady as the tide, a low, resonant drone that anchors the room in a state of absolute stasis, ensuring that nothing can disturb the sanctity of this moment. In this deep final loop, the golden ball does not just fall into the well, it becomes the well itself. The water is no longer a liquid to be feared, but a pool of cool, dark velvet that invites you to sink without falling, to submerge without drowning. The princess is no longer a girl waiting for a frog. She is the silence of the marble halls, the stillness of the stone, and the breath of the night. Everything that was once solid, the heavy oak tables, the cold stone hearths, the silver cups, and the iron keys, is softening at the edges, losing its form like a sugar cube dissolving in warm tea. The boundaries of the Hessian cottage and the royal castle are bleeding into one another, merging into a single unified sanctuary of the mind. The scent of the dried rosemary from the kitchen merges with the rosewater of the bedchamber, creating a heavy aromatic fog that cushions your thoughts against any stray noise or lingering worry. The clock is the heart. The heart is the well. The well is the sleep. The clock is the heart. The heart is the well. The well is the sleep. The clock is the heart. The heart is the well. The well is the sleep. Listen to the repetition as it pulls you deeper into the layers of the past. It is a secret rhythm, a frequency tuned to the very vibration of the earth in midwinter when the sap is still and the roots are dreaming. There is no more story to follow now, no more characters to track, no more lessons to learn. There is only the sensation of being held in a vast revolving circle of history that has no beginning and no end. The year 1812 is not a date in a book anymore. It is a feeling of ancient, unshakable safety, a time before the lights were too bright and the world was too fast. You are resting in the very Emavang of peace, where the repetition of the past creates an impenetrable shield for your present. The hearth fire in the cottage is now just a single glowing coal, a tiny pulsing sun in a universe of grey ash. The candles in the palace have all flickered out, leaving behind only the faint ghostly trail of white smoke that curls toward the ceiling like a question that has already been answered by the silence. The mother goat has settled by the door, her presence a final, unbreakable seal of protection against the outside world. The king and his court are lost in their own silent chronicles, their crowns resting on velvet cushions, their dreams as heavy as gold. The loops are slowing, almost stopping. The golden ball is at rest on the silt of the well. The white paws are tucked away beneath a blanket of shadows. The youngest child has stopped counting the seconds and has started dreaming of the stars. But as the silence reaches its peak, the atmosphere begins to shift in a way that is as natural as the turning of a page. The heavy, still air of the meadow and the garden is being stirred by a new, distant energy. From far beyond the 3 oak trees, beyond the palace walls and the edge of the dark forest, comes a sound that is both a whisper and a roar. It is the sound of the infinite. The air begins to smell, very faintly at first, then more clearly of salt and cold, deep water. The scent of the land, the dust, the grass, the wood, and the honey is being washed away by a bracing oceanic clarity that clears the mind of its final attachments. The cottage is quiet now. The gold is returned to the dark. The animals are still, and the people are sleeping. But the sea is calling from afar, its waves reaching out across the miles of history to pull our consciousness toward a different kind of horizon. The small enclosed world of the forest and the home is opening up, expanding into the vastness of the deep blue night. The walls are not just softening, they are turning into a silver mist, and through that mist, you can hear the first low pulse of the tide hitting a distant shore. We are leaving the rhythmic hearth behind, moving toward the vast blue eternity of the great water, where the fisherman waits by the shore, and the silver fish leaps in the moonlight. The transition is effortless. You are not walking toward the sea is coming to meet you, flowing over the meadow, turning the grass into seagrass and the stones into pearls. The rhythm of the clock is being replaced by the rhythm of the waves. The rhythm of the breath is being replaced by the rhythm of the ocean. In and out, rise and fall. The land, and the sea, the story, and the sleep. Everything is ready for the final descent into the deep. The loops of the earth have brought you to the edge of the water. Let the current take you now. Let the history of the forest fade into the history of the deep, where there is no time, only the blue, silent weight of peace. You are safe. You are drifting. You are almost there. The water is warm, the moon is bright, and the horizon is calling you home to a rest that has no end. If you are still with me, you are floating in a sea of stars. The boundaries of your room, the weight of your thoughts, and the gravity of the world have all dissolved into a vast liquid indigo. You are suspended in a space where time does not tick, it only breathes. Behind you, the forest of the Brothers Grimm has faded into a soft charcoal memory, and the golden halls of the palace have sunk beneath the waves of your subconscious. You are here, in the present, but the present is no longer a point on a map. It is an infinite, peaceful expanse of silver-edged clouds and starlit water. Listen to the sound of your own existence. Your breath is slow, a rhythmic tide that rises and falls without effort, mimicking the pulse of the great oceans we are about to visit. Your heart is calm, its beat a distant, muffled drum that echoes the safety of a home that spans centuries. Take a moment to feel the physical reality of your rest. You are in your bed, safe and warm, enveloped in layers of softness that feel like the very mist we have been traveling through. The linens are cool against your skin, the pillow is a cloud that supports the weight of your dreams, and the air around you is a protective cocoon of silence. You are tucked away from the wind, shielded from the light, and held in the embrace of a night that knows your name. This is the reveal. We are halfway through the night, and the best dreams are yet to come. The journey through the woods and the palace was merely the preparation, the clearing of the path. Your mind has been washed clean by the repetition of the loops, and now it is a mirror, ready to reflect the vast shimmering beauty of the deep. The heavy work of the day is over. The stories of the land have been told. Now we move into the fluid silver history of the water, where the logic of the earth is replaced by the magic of the tide. You have reached the midpoint of your rest, the moonlit anchor, where you are firmly moored in tranquility, while the spirit begins to drift toward the horizon. You are doing so well. Just drift. Just be. There is nothing left for you to do, no more characters to follow, no more mysteries to solve. You are a passenger on a vessel made of starlight, and the current is perfectly tuned to your needs. The darkness is not an empty space, it is a rich, velvet sanctuary filled with the potential for restorative rest. Every cell in your body is leaning into the stillness, every muscle is uncurling like a fern in the moonlight. You are as much a part of this night as the stars themselves, distant, glowing, and profoundly at peace. The transition is beginning again, but this time it carries the scent of the wild open water. The air is changing, losing the sweetness of the meadow and taking on a sharp, bracing clarity. The salty breeze of the North Sea reaches out to find you, carrying the tang of kelp, the chill of the deep, and the ancient song of the waves hitting the sand. It is a cleansing wind, blowing away the last lingering shadows of the forest. It carries us away from the silver bridge and the rhythmic hearth, transporting us across the dunes to a humble hut by the shore. Can you hear it? The low booming resonance of the surf. It is a larger rhythm, a deeper loop that connects the moon to the earth. The cottage of the 7 goats has transformed into a small weathered shack made of driftwood and salt-crusted stones. The transition is seamless, a slide from one dream into the next. You are moving from the warmth of the fire to the cool, rhythmic embrace of the coast, where a fisherman and his wife wait in the silence of the dunes. The sea is no longer a distant call, it is the very ground beneath your soul. The waves of the sea, are the heartbeat of the earth. Long before the first quill touched parchment, and long after the last candle is extinguished, this rhythmic emerald pulse remains. It is a slow, ancient breathing that knows no hurry, a dialogue between the moon and the deep that has continued for 1,000 years. As the salty breeze of the North Sea carries us across the dunes, the world of the forest and the palace of the frog begins to dissolve into a fine silver mist. We are moving toward a place where time is measured not by the ticking of a clock, but by the relentless, soothing wash of the tide against the shore. Here, in a humble hut made of driftwood and salt-crusted stones, an old fisherman and his wife live in the quiet between the land and the sky. The walls of their home are weathered by the brine, smelling of dried kelp, aged oak, and the cold, clean scent of the deep. Outside the door, the sea is a vast, shimmering mirror reflecting the indigo of the night. There is a sense of profound simplicity here, a life stripped of all noise, reduced to the essential rhythm of the waves. In, all, and out, rise, and fall. Each wave that slides across the sand is a long drawn-out whisper, a liquid lullaby that promises that everything you have ever lost will be returned to you in the silence of the dream. But as the fisherman casts his net into the starlit water, a different kind of stillness begins to spread across the kingdom of our history. Far inland, beyond the dunes and the marshes, a great enchantment is taking hold. It is the beginning of the century of silence. We are drifting now toward a castle that is not falling into ruin, but falling into a deep, protected slumber. The Palace of Sleeping Beauty is not a place of tragedy, but a sanctuary of absolute rest. Watch as the enchantment begins at the very edges of the world. A hedge of thorns begins to grow around the castle walls, but these are not sharp or threatening. They are soft, green tendrils, moving with the slow, deliberate grace of underwater plants. They weave together to form a living shield, a wall of emerald velvet that shuts out the wind, the dust, and the demands of the waking world. The growth is so slow, it is almost imperceptible. A leaf unfolds over the course of a year. A vine reaches for a stone over the span of a decade. The castle is being gently tucked into a cocoon of nature, hidden away in a pocket of time where nothing can ever change, and nothing can ever hurt. Inside the walls, the transition to the long sleep is a masterpiece of tranquility. The fire in the hearth stops flickering, its flames freezing into beautiful translucent statues of orange silk. The smoke, caught mid-air, becomes a series of delicate grey ribbons that hang motionless in the hall. The king and queen, seated upon their thrones, have let their heads sink onto their chests, their breathing so slow and shallow that it is indistinguishable from the silence itself. The courtiers, the guards, and the cooks are all caught in their own moments of peaceful surrender. The horses in the stable have lowered their heavy heads, their manes as still as carved marble. Even the flies upon the wall have ceased their buzzing, resting in the cool shadows of the tapestries. This is the reveal. Sleep is not an end, but a beautiful, enchanted kingdom you are entering. It is a place where the laws of the sun do not apply, where 100 years can pass in the space of a single, rhythmic breath. This castle is a mirror of your own mind. Like the princess in the high tower, you are being protected by a hedge of stars and silence. The world outside may continue its frantic pace, but here, within the walls of your own rest, time has no power over you. You are entering a sanctuary that has been prepared for you since the beginning of history, a place where the air is heavy, with the scent of ancient roses and the weight of a century of peace. The stillness is absolute. The birds stop singing in the eaves, their wings tucked tight against their bodies as they dream of the summer sun. The dogs in the courtyard have curled into tight circles of fur, their paws twitching occasionally as they chase imaginary shadows in a world that is perfectly quiet. All is still. All is well. The palace has become a vessel of pure distilled rest, floating on the ocean of the night. The fisherman's hut and the Sleeping Beauty's castle have merged into one single point of focus, a point of total surrender to the dark. Listen to the silence of the century. It is not an empty silence, but a rich textured quietude that resonates with the history of 1,000 dreams. It is the sound of the thorns growing, the sound of the dust settling on the silk, the sound of the waves hitting the distant dunes. It is a drone that vibrates in the very center of your being, telling you that it is okay to let go. It is okay to stop. It is okay to simply exist. The stories are dissolving into the mist of your mind, losing their characters, their plots, and their names, leaving behind only the pure golden light of the enchantment. You are the fisherman, you are the princess, you are the wave, and you are the stone. You are the century of silence itself. The century of silence is not a void, but a vast overflowing vessel of peace. Inside the castle of the sleeping princess, the dust itself has become a part of the enchantment. Look closely at the sunbeams that used to dance in the high corridors. They are now frozen in place, solid shafts of pale gold that do not flicker or fade. The dust motes within them have stopped their chaotic swirling, hanging suspended in the still air like tiny celestial anchors. Every surface, the cold marble of the floors, the rough stones of the hearth, the soft silk of the canopies is being covered by a fine silver veil of time. It is a slow, methodical layering of rest, a quiet snow of history that muffles every vibration and softens every edge. The silence here is heavy, a physical presence that wraps around the pillars and settles into the folds of the velvet curtains. In the kitchen of the palace, the copper pots have lost their shine, turning a deep, matte bronze as they settle into the century. The cook, whose hand was once raised to scold the scullery boy, has forgotten the reason for his movement. His fingers are relaxed, his brow is smooth, and the steam from the soup has solidified into a delicate, translucent cloud of white lace. There is no heat here, and there is no cold. There is only the perfect, unchanging temperature of a dream. The heartbeat of the castle has slowed to a rhythmic thud that occurs only once every hour, a deep, resonant boom that echoes through the empty halls, like the sound of a distant drum submerged in honey. The spit over the fire has stopped turning, and the meat has become a sculpture of memory. The dust is settling. The fire is stone. The heart is the sea. The dust is settling. The fire is stone. The heart is the sea. The dust is settling. The fire is stone. The heart is the sea. Outside, the fisherman stands upon the shore of the North Sea, his figure a dark silhouette against the silver grey of the horizon. He is no longer casting his net. He is simply standing in witness to the infinite. The waves do not crash, they only slide. They glide over the wet sand with a sound like silk being pulled over silk. Each movement of the water takes an eternity to complete. The rise of the tide is so gradual that the small shells upon the beach are moved only by a fraction of an inch over a decade. The salt-crusted stones of his hut are becoming one with the earth, their minerals returning to the soil in a slow chemical embrace. The smell of the brine is now the only thing that remains of the physical world, a clean, sharp, oceanic scent that fills your lungs and clears the last remnants of thought from your mind. The seagrass on the dunes is frozen in a perpetual bow toward the water. You are drifting further now, moving beyond the castle walls and beyond the fisherman's shore. You are moving into the great water of your own subconscious. The stories of the brothers Grimm, the red cap, the golden bowl, the white paws, the hedge of thorns are losing their colors. They are becoming translucent, like ancient vellum held up to a fading light. The names are slipping away. The faces are dissolving. The plots are untangling. What remains is not a story, but a frequency. A low, humming vibration that resonates in your chest, telling you that the journey is over. You have arrived at the center of the century. You have reached the core of the silence. The history of the world has reached its final quiet conclusion in the library of your rest. The hedge of thorns has grown so high and so thick that the castle is now just a green mountain in the mist. The birds that were frozen in flight are now part of the sky. The horses in the stable have become the earth they stand upon, their heavy breathing replaced by the rustle of the ivy. The silver bridge we crossed has melted into the moonlight. There is no here, and there is no there. There is only the vast, blue eternity of the North Sea, stretching out forever under a sky that has no stars, only light. The light is soft, a pale indigo that does not hurt the eyes, a light that emanates from the water itself. It is a light that does not reveal, but hides, tucking the world away in a blanket of absolute shadow and silver. Everything is slowing. Everything is softening. Everything is still. Everything is slowing. Everything is softening. Everything is still. Everything is slowing. Everything is softening. Everything is still. Feel the weight of your body becoming the weight of the castle. Your limbs are the heavy oak beams that have supported the roof for 100 years. Your breath is the slow, rhythmic wash of the tide against the driftwood. Your mind is the century of silence, vast and protected, where 100 years is nothing more than a single peaceful sigh. There is no tomorrow to prepare for. There is no yesterday to remember. There is only the absolute, unshakable safety of the present moment, held in the amber of 1812, held in the silk of the dream. The world outside is a distant memory, a faint echo that has finally been silenced by the depth of the sea. The fisherman's wife has closed her eyes in the hut. The princess has forgotten the spindle. The wolf is a shadow of peace. The gold is the silence of the well. The stories are gone now, replaced by the white noise of the universe. The mist has swallowed the shore, the woods, and the palace. You are floating in the center of a pale silver cloud, where the air is cool and the water is deep. You are doing so well. You are so close. The last thread of the tapestry is being pulled, and the world is becoming a single perfect note of silence. The library is closed. The candles are out. The ocean is all that remains. Listen to the last wave. It is the longest one yet. It starts at the edge of the world and moves slowly, slowly, toward you. It carries the weight of the century. It carries the peace of the woods. It carries the salt of the sea. It reaches you now, a cold, gentle touch that washes away the last spark of awareness. It pulls you under, into the warmth of the deep, where the history of sleep is the only history left. All is still. All is well. The century is yours. The silence is yours. The sea is yours. Sleep now. Sleep. One. There are maps in these old books we haven't followed yet. Between the vellum pages and the scent of ancient drying ink, there are coordinates to places that exist only in the quietest, most silver hours of the night. If you look closely at the fading lines of our journey tonight, you might see the faint, shimmering outlines of a massive iron stove, standing alone in a clearing of a forgotten forest, waiting for a key that has been lost for 1,000 years. You might hear the distant rhythmic echo of music rising from a hidden staircase, where 12 princesses are preparing to dance through the soles of their shoes in a garden made of silver, gold, and diamonds. These are the paths we have yet to tread, the stories that are currently breathing in the dark, waiting for the right moment to unfold. I have saved the most secret tale for our next meeting under the moon. There is a kingdom carved entirely from the ice of the north, and a mountain where the stars come to rest during the day, but those are journeys for another time. For now, the maps are being folded. The ink is drying. The compass is coming to rest at the true north of your own peace. You do not need to look for the way forward anymore. The path has brought you exactly where you are meant to be. But tonight, your map ends here, in the comfort of your own dreams. The edges of the world have curled inward, creating a safe, small circle of warmth around your bed. The forest, the palace, and the sea have all been tucked into the drawers of your mind, becoming the quiet foundation upon which your rest is built. You have navigated the century of silence, and you have found the anchor in the storm. The cartography of the day is gone, replaced by the soft, unmapped expanse of a deep and restorative sleep. Sleep now. Nah. The music will hold you until the dawn. The heavy rain is beginning to fall on the castle roof, a steady rhythmic drumming that washes away the last remnants of the waking world. The fireplace in the library is settling into a low, comforting crackle, a soft amber glow that protects the silence. There is nothing left to find. There is nothing left to follow. You are home. Good night, traveler. The history of sleep is now yours to write. The heavy rain continues its relentless, soothing descent upon the slate tiles of the castle roof. Patter, dot, splash, drone. It is a thick curtain of water, a sonic barrier that separates you from the rest of the universe. Inside, the fire in the hearth is a living presence, the wood sighing and popping as it releases the heat of 100 summers. Crackle, snap, bot, hiss. These sounds are the only language left, a dialogue of elemental peace that requires no understanding, only surrender. The air in the room is heavy with the scent of rain-dampened stone and the warmth of the embers. The rhythm of the rainfall is a natural metronome, slowing your pulse, deepening your breath, and pulling your consciousness into the velvet dark. Each drop that hits the roof is a tiny weight pressing you further into the mattress. Each spark that rises in the chimney is a thought drifting away into the night. Rain on the stone. Fire in the dark. Rain on the stone. Fire in the dark. Rain on the stone. Fire in the dark. The world is a blur of grey and amber. The history of the day has been erased. The history of the forest is a dream. The history of the sea is a whisper. There is only this room, this rain, this fire, and this sleep. You are drifting in the infinite hush, where the silence is as deep as the century, and the rest is as vast as the North Sea. Deep, detach, slow, still, deep, day, slow, wavy, still, deep, day, slow, still. The rain is a lullaby. The fire is a shield. The night is a kingdom. The history of sleep is unfolding in the quiet beat of your heart. The castle is wrapped in a blanket of grey water, and the fireplace is a glowing eye in the dark. Every drop of rain is a syllable of peace. Every hiss of the wood is a word of rest. The silence is growing thicker, heavier, and more beautiful. You are sinking into the layers of time, moving beyond the map, beyond the stories, and into the absolute, wordless light of the dream. The rain is the world's breath. The fire is the world's heart. And you are the world's sleep. The embers are fading into a soft, deep red. The loud sky. Water on the roof is a steady hum. The shadows are long and kind. The journey is over. The rest is beginning. The infinite hush is here. Patter, dot, crackle, fell, me. Hush. Patter, crackle, fade. Hush. The night is complete. The history is written. You are safe. You are held. That you are asleep.